Melva, it's so great to see you, and I would love to get an update from you on how restaurants are handling all of this currently.
Well, thank you, Clint, for having us. And thank you for all that Silicon Slopes is doing to help our community and our restaurants and every business. We really need it at this time. So, I mean, restaurants are struggling. They've been struggling since this whole episode began, really about the 1st of February. You could start to see things slow down. And so it's not like it just started for us or that we're just in the midst of it. It's been going on for a while. And so businesses were down 20 to 30% the latter part of February. And then it's just been ongoing since that time. And businesses, especially the restaurants, are really struggling right now.
How bad do you think this is going to get?
Well, I don't know how bad it's going to get. We've done a survey and conducted a survey of restaurants in the state. And just to give you kind of an idea, just to March 22nd, the first 22 days of March, our industry alone, restaurants have lost $173 million in sales and more than 25,000 jobs. Now that was to the 22nd. And then we've had.
And that's, sorry, Melva, to interrupt. I just want to make sure I got those numbers correct. That's 173 million in sales lost since when?
So as of the 22nd of March. So
as of the 22nd of March, 173 million in sales lost. And then you were saying 25,000
jobs as of that same time frame.
Wow. And is that like, what are we talking about in terms of time frame here? Is that 6 weeks?
Yeah, so that since just about the beginning of February is when people started to feel it. So, and our concern is that, of course, public health is always issue number one and how we protect public health. But now, as we deal with these economic situations and try and create strategies moving forward, our concern is, how much longer can people survive? So we have 5,279 restaurants in the state of Utah. And what this study predicted to us is that we will lose 5% of them right now will not open back up. 5% of the 5,279. The longer this stretches out, the more that becomes apparent that the industry will continue to struggle. I mean, I have restaurants calling me every day, some in tears, some angry, some, just frightened. And so we're trying to comfort them and trying to let them know we're all working on strategies and we're all trying to make sure that we all rebound from this, but it is hard when they're in the midst of it. So they're dealing with it on a constant basis. And we're concerned that, we're a community. Like restaurants aren't just restaurants. We love our employees are family. Over 111,000 employees in the state of Utah. If we continue down this direction, I'm projecting that we'll have 40,000 unemployment rolls by the 1st of next week.
Just from the restaurant industry?
Just from the restaurant industry. So 47%. Or 37%, I'm sorry, all of the claims that were made that they were saying 20,000 as of the end of last week. Those 20,000 from last week, 37% of those were the restaurant industry.
So 40,000 jobs, and we currently have 25,000 jobs lost in the restaurant industry over just the past 6 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks. But if you're predicting 40,000 jobs lost by next week, I mean, there's only 3 million people in the state of Utah. That's a significant number.
Yes, it's a frightening number but our industry employs directly 111,000 people. Another 29,000 people depend on our industry for their survival. So add that together and you're looking at right in the neighborhood of 140,000 jobs that are directly related to the restaurant industry. So we are in a critical situation of trying to determine how we protect our economy and protect the public health and make this balance out.
So say this goes until June or July, like many are predicting. What happens?
Yeah, so I mean, that's the gloom and doom scenario that we're not trying to face. We're trying to face the next 2 weeks. What is the next 2 weeks going to bring? What can we do? We've offered things like we could feed all the school children. We would love to feed the school children, and we could create a voucher system. We've had people who listen to Silicon Slopes who have contacted us and said, hey, we can make a credit card just so that students could have it and they could only use it for food. And so great, you could go in your local neighborhood. We're trying to think of creative things. We're saying leave restaurants open so that pickup can be done, because we have a lot of people who are disadvantaged. We think technology is awesome, and it is, but not everyone has it or the availability of it. There's still a lot of people who need to be fed. So restaurants can help as far as within our communities and within our structure of the state, provide and keep people working, but provide food to people who need it.
So what would need to happen to make that possible for restaurants to feed children? I guess there's a couple questions there. Like, one, I assume they need that, right? I assume that's needed.
Yep.
And, you know, given my conversations I've had with Jeanette Bott, who's the CEO of Utah Food Bank, it seems like food is needed. But, you know, just making that assumption that that's needed, you know, how do we make that happen? What needs to happen in order for that to take place?
Well, we have a summertime program when things are really going well in the programs, where we feed young people from Granite School District. Many of our restaurants have their own programs where they go in and feed the children and whatnot. But we're saying that we can't necessarily we're not going to gather in groups of 10 or more, or however that might be. There's classrooms at the schools. We could easily take the food there. If that didn't work, they can easily visit our restaurants and pick up food and use a voucher or use a coupon or use a card that we could specifically make available only for food, and then provide meals, at least one good meal a day. I'm not saying that we can necessarily provide 3 meals a day, but one good meal a day like they would get at school, or the equivalent of that meal. The restaurants could help solve that problem.
Melva, I'm blown away by these numbers. 25,000 jobs lost already. That's done. 173 million in sales, and that's just from the 22nd. So both those numbers are probably higher at this point. How can we help immediately?
So what we're saying is, number one, food is essential, and that's what restaurants do. Not only do they do food well, they do food safe. There isn't a better place that you could go. I mean, the restaurant industry in the entire nation was ranked as the #1 most trusted industry for all of the businesses that are out there by the Gallup poll this year. So we are trusted. We do a good job. Before this all happened, we were serving 2 million meals a day to our hungry Utah citizens and visitors. And so we want to get back to that. But right now, with our limited service, people can order a gift card directly from the restaurant. So that way they're not being having to pay a commission or some other fee. Order the credit card directly from the restaurant. They can get it to you. They can deliver it when they deliver your order. One of the things that we set up for our servers, because as we say, they're our family, is we set up a virtual Utah tip jar so that we can help servers throughout the state of Utah. And you can find that on Instagram. You can find that on the Taste Utah website, because we promote food throughout Utah and the great food that we have, and supporting our restaurant community all through the year. So those are things that you can do. We had an offer today. We got a call from the Governor's Office of Economic Development where they said, Melva, people are volunteering. They're contacting us who want to go out and do delivery for restaurants, not charge them, just go out and help, and anything like that. So you can go to our info at UtahRestaurantAssociation.org, and you can sign up. Let us know what service you would like to perform, where you live, how we could make that close for you. And then we'll get your names out to restaurants who need assistance, who need help, because right now we're in a critical situation for our restaurant industry in the state of Utah.
Is there something we can do? There's been a lot of talk around, you know, having landlords kind of forgive rent payments during this time for, you know, folks who, you know, are renting. And, you know, so we're not evicting people during the middle of a pandemic. Is there something the state or federal government can do here around, laxing some of the standing costs that come from the restaurant industry every month? I mean, I actually randomly, Melva, I wasn't very good at it, but I owned a deli for a number of years on Center Street in Provo. And I know that there's a fixed cost every single month to running a restaurant. One of those costs is, of course, employees, and that's usually your biggest cost. And in this particular situation, it's the most important cost that we need to figure that out. I mean, 25,000 jobs lost is just unacceptable, right? But there's also other costs. There's rent, there's electricity. You got to keep these fridges on. There's so many different things that go into running a restaurant. And how can the state or government or whoever help with some of those costs?
So I think the governor's plan does outline some of those things. We've met with the Utah Bankers Association, and they've agreed that banks are going to be doing all that they can to defer and those kinds of things. I think that you've heard a special session is going to be called because there are all kinds of considerations, deferring taxes, tax payments. For not just property tax, but unemployment, all these taxes and whatnot. So there's a huge burden there that the industry bears. And licensing fees. There are so many things now that we're looking and saying, can we defer as many things as possible? And we don't want landlords to get hurt either. But this stimulus bill, this package that is coming out of the federal government has some real helps in it. It's just, can we get it fast enough? But we've been thrown overboard kind of as the restaurant industry, and that lifeline is coming, but can we hang on and keep reaching out for it until it gets to us? So help from the banks, help from insurance companies, help from people knowing that help is coming, but we might not be able to hang on if you don't give us some assistance more quickly than you might help other people. So what we're saying is anything that these people can do, whoever it is, step up to the plate, help us out now. Like Workers' Compensation Fund, look what they did. They gave everybody their dividends 2 months early, so that people could have cash and that they could we need wherever people can step up to help with whatever creative, innovative idea it is, we need them to step up now.
Yeah, the question right now is, can you hang on until this relief comes, right? It just passed the House today. I assume the president signs it today or over the weekend, but I don't know how quickly that gets injected. You know what I mean? I don't know if it happens within the next 2 weeks, which you talked about kind of being the main focus of your association right now. There's also these SBA loans that are a part of that. Is that something that you're encouraging restaurant owners to apply for and go talk to their bank? Because these SBA loans, I think there's we had a conversation with Miles Hansen, the World Trade Center president and CEO yesterday, who's really gone deep on these SBA loans. And he's saying there's about $390 billion available there. And you can actually go, for those restaurant owners watching this right now, you can actually go to your bank, as long as they're SBA approved, which most are, and apply for those SBA loans rather than going directly to the SBA office, which I don't even know how to contact them. So you can go directly to your bank for those SBA loans. And then there's also these SBA disaster relief loans, which, you have to prove to the government that, COVID-19 affected your industry or your business. And of course, if you're a restaurant, of course it did. You know what I mean? So those are two options just in the short term, but we've got to get it there quicker. You needed this yesterday, these restaurants. That's a staggering number for those watching this currently, that we've already lost 25,000 jobs and $173 million in revenue in really 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, the restaurant industry needs life support. We need a respirator big time to come in, and banks can do that. I think, knowing this money is coming from the federal government, they don't know when it will get there. We're told you don't need any collateral as long as you use these funds to pay rent, to pay utilities, to pay your employees, then you don't have to pay that back. So this SBA loan, as it's going to be referred to, but it's actually going to come through the banks and be processed at that level. We're telling people, go out, contact your local banker. We've already met with those folks. They've said they're more than willing to help. And that's what people need right now in our industry, is we need a help. I mean, we've supported the community all these years. I mean, you can't find a restaurant that doesn't support a baseball team, a soccer team. You see their signs everywhere because that's what we are. We are the best neighbors that you could possibly have. And now we need a little help back. And so any way that anyone can help is this is the time to step up.
And the CDC has said that, COVID-19 can't be transmitted through food. So it's still fine to go do these curbside pickups. It's still fine to order, delivery and all these basic things. We would encourage everyone to do that to support local restaurants. Again, 25,000 jobs lost already, $173 million in revenue lost already. And we're in the beginning of this thing. Support local restaurants. I mean, those numbers are a stark reality and a stark reminder of how important this is as we've been talking about it. So to get engaged and get in touch with you, you go to info@UtahRestaurantAssociation.org. Is that right, Melva?
Right.
And then, to do this virtual tip jar, which I love this idea. I hadn't heard that until you mentioned it. You go to the Taste Utah website. Is that tasteutah.com?
Instagram is the best way to get to it. Instagram. And then, yes, there are other ways, but Instagram is the best right now. Go on. People can donate all of that money. 100% of all of that money is going to servers throughout the state to try and help them with their expenses.
I love that. So go check out Taste Utah on Instagram. Support your local restaurant today.
Yes, eat out.
This is
a big deal. Call in, restaurants are just ready. They're ready. They're waiting. They're open. Everywhere that I go, I travel and see restaurants are open, big open signs to make sure people know they're open. So get the word out that restaurants are open and we're ready to do business and give you the great experiences you've always had when it comes to food at our restaurants.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Melva. We're in a critical time for your industry. Any way we can support, please let us know. We'll actually have a little bit of an update, a little bit of some good news on this on the Silicon Slopes Town Hall at 4 p.m. We're going to have Ryan Smith, the Qualtrics CEO, talk about some of the things he's doing in this area, which I think are incredible. But we've all got to chip in here. We can't rely on, just a few companies or a few people here. Melva, I'm sure we'll have you back on again soon as we progress into this thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clint.